So today I'm honored to welcome Dr. Laleh Talebian to the Leading with Purpose podcast. As a scientist, health practitioner, and founder of her own health company, Dr. Talebian specializes in helping people move beyond symptom management to true healing. Rather than offering a one-size-fits-all solution, she creates highly personalized nutrition, herbal, and supplement protocols based on each individual's genetics, environment, lifestyle, and laboratory data. Her philosophy is simple but powerful. No two people are the same, so no two healing journeys should be the same. Today, she's empowering people to break free from dependence on prescriptions, prevent chronic disease, and take back control of their health by addressing the underlying causes of illness rather than masking the symptoms. Dr. Talebian, welcome to the Leading with Purpose podcast. I'm excited to explore your journey.
Thank you so much for having me. I am excited to be here.
So I'm going to dive right in with, this is the Leading with Purpose podcast, and you have a big mission that had a very abrupt beginning at a young age. Do you want to share a little bit about how you got on this journey to begin with?
Yes. My dad was the only real parent that was in my life, really, that mattered. And when he was diagnosed with advanced stage cancer, when I was just about 14, and my world came crashing down because he was everything to me, and he was my role model, he was my hero. And it was the first time he went to the doctor, and cancer had spread everywhere. So he had 4% chance of surviving his surgery that would remove his stomach, gallbladder, spleen, part of the intestine, and one kidney out. And if he didn't do the surgery with 4% chance of survival, they said he would live maybe 2 to 3 weeks beyond that point. Well, he did the surgery, he survived it, and he lived a year after that. And he died on my 15th birthday, which literally paved the path and made me obsessed with cancer. So I had to flee my country of Iran during the war at the time. And 3 countries and 3 continents later, I ended up in the United States. And 20 years and 5 days after he died, I became a research scientist in cancer biology, cancer immunology. So I'll stop there.
Yeah, well, that is, again, quite an abrupt beginning. And again, it's very interesting how these terrible tragedies can lead to amazing fruit. So it's a deep dive right for you, and it's a deep dive right into our show here. I'm just curious, one, you said that got you right onto your journey into health, and especially with cancer. I'm curious how that ties into one of the major themes that talked about in your introduction, where you often talk about getting to the root cause rather than masking the symptoms. Right. What do you see as some of the biggest misconceptions that people have about health, healing, and chronic disease?
Great question. So once I became a scientist, you would think my mission was accomplished. I was doing clinical research on cancer. But after many years of clinical research, I read a few things that really blew my mind away. And it was maddening in a way, because I found that most cancer patients die not of their cancer, but of organ failure due to toxic therapy. Many secondary cancers are therapy related. And more importantly, more than 85% of all chronic conditions, including cancer, are preventable, manageable, and reversible with what you eat, how you move your body, and how you think. So the missing theme overall throughout my research career, cancer, was we were masking symptoms all the time. We were waiting for people to get cancer in my field, and then, there is a drug therapy for that. And the side effects were horrifying, and the quality of life obviously was affected severely for a lot of people, maybe less severe for some. And, oftentimes I was wondering, is this the better way? Because the last image I had of my dad was literally him being deteriorated under chemotherapy and radiation at barely 90 pounds. It wasn't the picture of him strong and healthy of the beach with me, because that's basically what he shrunk down to. And I felt like there has to be a better way. And there has to be a better way to prevent, most of the diseases, especially cancer, which most people don't think it is, but it has a lot to do with lifestyle, nutrition, environmental toxins, epigenetics, more than it is with genetics. So I started thinking about using the same framework as targeting cancer with cancer markers, which all cancer patients have. Instead of drug therapy, then use food compounds in natural herbs and supplements to target those cancer markers and basically design that whole program around a person's unique attributes. When I decided to do this work, when I was still in clinical research, I hit the wall every time because there is no money in getting people off medications. There is no money getting people out of the hospitals. And that is sort of how our sick care system works. And so I decided to do this on my own for part-time. One thing that really blew my mind was this was really much needed even back in 2010, when I first gave a talk in a really small community, center gym here. And immediately after my talk, 40 people signed up to work with me. Not all of them were cancer survivors or had cancer, but they had other chronic conditions that were frustrated with the way they were being treated and the medications and the side effects. And, shortly after, well, not shortly, it took me a few years to, find the courage to actually fly free and leave the academic research and do this solo completely 100%. As scary as that was, I never looked back. It's the best decision I've ever made. So today I call myself former transformed to research scientist into nutritional healing doctor, because I really use food and natural remedies to heal the body. And I will tell you that most of all of us, our bodies have the natural ability to heal if the body has the right environment, the right tools, the right fuel, and everything right for it to do so. But that's unfortunately not the case with our current food system and healthcare system and pharma and all of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And yes, all of those things working together as a perfect storm against it, but you're still saying that you can focus on lifestyle and nutrition in prevention, but also in addressing once we get to that disease. You're an actual doctor, so I have to be very careful. I don't about compliance and what you say you can do. I'll let you say whatever you want. Because I know that once somebody is diagnosed with cancer, there's 3 traditional Eastern treatments: cut, poison, or burn, right? The cut being surgery, chemotherapy, or radiation.
Yeah.
And that your father went through all 3 of those.
Yep. Yes. Yes.
And so you're saying that that obviously at that point, it was very far gone into them. I don't know how far you work with patients, but you're saying 1, we can prevent it, and 2, we can curve it and improve the quality of life.
Yep.
Instead of all those.
Yeah, absolutely. So the way to think about it is this. Obviously, most chronic conditions, most diseases can be preventable, or can be at least manageable, or much less severe, if you will. Now, I have to say, I love my dad, but he lived a very, very stressful life. He smoked. He didn't eat really well. So, he died at 49 of cancer, but he had all of those things going on. Of course, he didn't go to the doctor. The first time he did, cancer had spread everywhere. So all of those factors obviously were working against him. So those things are good to keep in mind. So if you could imagine, if I could turn the clock back and say, if my dad didn't smoke, if he didn't have the stressful life, he had the loving support that he really deserved and needed, and all of that, maybe his story would have been different. So in my world, unfortunately, most people, when they come to me, they are already faced with a diagnosis, whether it be cancer or Parkinson's or a serious chronic condition. And my role, number one, is to really create clarity for them. Because until we understand the cause of a problem and actually remove that, we can't really eliminate it. And our current healthcare system is designed around masking symptoms. It's like having an engine light go in your car and you put a duct tape on it. Well, you can't see the engine light anymore, but the engine problem hasn't gone away, right? It's going to keep getting worse, right? The car eventually is going to die if you don't do anything about it. Now, I'm simplifying this, but our bodies are kind of like that. So when we try to mask symptoms, we're not really eliminating the cause. So my number one thing is to really help people find that clarity, really go back and figure out the root cause or causes of what's going on in their body right now. And oftentimes it's not one thing. And oftentimes people are labeled with their symptom or disease. You have cancer, and everything surrounds around the cancer, nothing around the whole person. And what was the life of this person before the word cancer came into the picture? So kind of looking beyond that and looking at the person as a whole and what other factors contributed or are contributing or could be used as superpowers, if you will. So those all come into play. Number two is really, for me, especially with the cancer diagnosis, is to help them understand all of their options and the best options and the risks and the statistics and the pros and cons and all of that, and then be able to make an educated decision that they are comfortable and confident about. And this is something that is not always the case, because a lot of cancer patients, they have so much to worry about. There's, I can't even imagine what that is like to get that diagnosis. So to try to become the manager of your health and try to figure out all of these things for 95% of the people is impossible, and it's overwhelming. So they're left with, okay, the oncologist says this is your option. Those are the 2-3 options, and you have to choose. And that could be very, very scary and overwhelming. And the biggest part of what I do is actually really going over all the options and explaining that in really terms that a person can comfortably understand without the overwhelm, without the medical jargon, without, all of the things that kind of overshadow everything, and just say, okay, here is what this means. And here are your options. And then you can decide. And oftentimes at that point, they feel that confidence in their decision. And believe it or not, most modern medicine doesn't really talk about this or believe in it, is that if you, as a cancer patient, go into a treatment with the fear or uncertainty that, is this going to work? This is going to make me sick. Or, I'm going to die. That mindset and that belief system is going to dictate where you go. I firmly believe in that. So shifting the mindset of a person from disease to health is a big step to first think about, okay, if you're going into this therapy, believing that it's going to make you sick, fearing that it's going to make things worse, it's going to do that, right? But if you believe that you go into this therapy, whatever that is that you choose, with confidence that I know this is going to heal me, it's going to help me heal, it's going to work better. Whatever that is, if there's chemotherapy, radiation, immunotherapy, whatever it is, or if you just choose not to do any of that. So my job is not to make that decision for people, is to help them make that decision confidently with clarity.
That is so powerful.
Yeah, exactly.
It really is.
Big part.
Yeah. And we've been talking a lot about cancer. I know you work with lots of different diseases, particularly with Parkinson's, you mentioned. I'm wondering, how are they similar? How are they different? And why these two are so prevalent for you?
Well, that's a great question. I told you why I got into cancer, obviously, and I've lost a lot of dear people to me in cancer, as many other people. Mm-hmm. And so that's still very close to my heart. And there are cancer markers in my field that I can utilize to target specifically. So that is what's attractive to me with a lot of conditions that there are specific markers and, epigenetic factors, very genetic factors in family history and things like that we can directly target. But really, a lot of other complicated chronic conditions don't have very specific targets as many as cancer does. Now with Parkinson's, also there are markers, but it literally came to me as a complete, by chance. Never looked for it. I had studied Parkinson's disease as in my genetics course. I was a genetics major in college, so I knew, the science of Parkinson's. But I had a dear friend who was my biking buddy, and he was, probably about 20 years older than me, but, we used to bike together and all of that. And he was diagnosed with Parkinson's. And he went from biking to not being able to balance on the bike. And that's devastating. Mm-hmm. One of the most devastating things about Parkinson's, I think, is the notion or the, I want to say people feel that decline is inevitable. Mm-hmm. So when you get that diagnosis, kind of like cancer, a lot of times people are in fear of, I'm going to die in so many months or years. And sometimes they're told that, which I really don't like that. With Parkinson's, they're told, well, your brain function, your body is going to decline. So basically get yourself ready for that, right? So with my dear friend John, he basically started right away. And I created a program for him based on his genetics and everything. And within 3 weeks, less than 3 weeks, post that, his neurologist wrote me an email and said, I don't know what you did to my patient. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm in trouble. And she said, I don't care. It works. Can I send you more patients? And to be honest, it blew my mind because I've never seen a disease, a condition that is so responsive to food therapy. To this day.
To what? Say that again. So responsive to food therapy.
Fast and incredible. I mean, it's like a switch goes off. And I saw John going from not being able to balance on the bike to 4 weeks after that, 4-mile bike ride. And 4 months after that, he did a 450-mile bike ride across the country to raise funds for Parkinson's research. So it was like a switch went on, and I've seen that time and time again. So I became really fascinated with it, not only because of the nature of the disease, but also there's a puzzle in my mind that I firmly believe about 85 to 90% of cases of Parkinson's are also environmentally related, epigenetic factors. It's not really a genetic disease. It doesn't always run in families very often, but it has a lot to do with a few things that are very, culprits, if you will, like paraquat, glyphosates in food, pesticides, toxins in the environment, and grains, which actually it's for everyone, I would say. But there are all these things that really, I firmly believe that more and more Parkinson's cases are in younger people, and there's so many more Parkinson's cases than, say, 30, 40 years ago. Same with cancer, Mark. Like you didn't see kids getting cancer so much. I've seen young kids, young adults getting cancers that never existed before, rare types of cancer in their 20s. And it didn't used to be like that. So we have to, I believe firmly that it has to do with our environment, our food, our lifestyle, our stress management, our sleep, all of those things come into play, our social connections. I mean, what are our connections? Most people are on their phones all the time. They don't physically interact with each other as much as they did. So I think those are big reasons. And another thing is both groups of people with Parkinson's or cancer are very motivated. It's almost sad that it's a tragedy that gets them really motivated to take control of their health. And they really are. They do whatever it takes. And so that's, it's really a pleasure to work with them. So actually, currently I have more people with Parkinson's active clients. It's just because, it keeps happening. And I know.
Well, if it's responsive, yeah, you keep doing what works. That's fantastic.
And it works. And, yeah, definitely it works. And I really, truly enjoy working with them. So those are two big groups.
And just from like a personal story, most people that are familiar with me know that my wife went through her own cancer journey and also believed it was very epigenetic, or with cancer, it can be very much more genetic based on what she experienced and everything. She also is somebody who does a lot of research, and she wants to know the numbers. And she was has a holistic nutrition degree, and so looked at all of those nutrition things, and then just looked at the stats and said, statistically, she'd have a better survival rate by going through all of those things, and had that mindset, like you had said earlier, that these things are going to keep me alive, and I'll use all of my nutritional background to take away all of those side effects, that we can. So for somebody with, like so many of us that are overwhelmed by conflicting health advice, somebody who wants to take their greater ownership over their own well-being, what do you think are some of the first steps that you recommend to begin that journey towards true healing and prevention? How does somebody get started on that?
I think number one thing is really become your own health advocate and really know that the choice is ultimately yours. So it isn't anybody's right to tell you as a person, number one, how much time you have. I hear this a lot with cancer patients. Well, it is, 6 weeks. It is 6 months. It is, and I heard that all time and time again. And I tell you a story of my dear client, Gail, who was given 3 months to live. And she said, well, I'm just going to go the alternative route because obviously nothing was working. And they told her, well, go ahead and get your affairs together. And we started working together 6 months after that. Now, mind you, she had 3 months to live. 6 months after that.
And you started working together 6 months after yeah.
No, we started working together when she had the 3 months sort of,
Gotcha.
Basically. And then we started working together. She said, well, I have nothing to lose. I might as well try this. And we started working together. 6 months after we started, she went to the doctor. All of her scans, markers came negative. She had no cancer. To a point that the oncologist literally wrote to her in that quote, unfortunately, there is no cancer in your body, so you don't qualify for a cancer trial. And she said, I'm
sorry to let you know that you don't have cancer. So you can't go these.
In her mind, she was thinking, I need her to have cancer to put her on a clinical trial. She doesn't have cancer, so I put her on a clinical trial. You see where the odd logic is, right? She wasn't really thinking what she was writing at the time. And I told Gail, forget about that. And she said, well, what do you think is the reason that I have survived and past the 3 months, right? And there's no cancer. The oncologist said, I have no explanation for that, but it has nothing to do with food or lifestyle. And this went on for 8 years. Every year, she lived a perfectly healthy life. She lived her life to the fullest. So number one thing is, I strongly advise anybody who is given a certain amount of time, completely erase that from your memory, your mind, because nobody in this world can know for sure, or has the right to tell anyone how much anyone has. We don't know that. Nobody knows that. Mm-hmm. Statistics are good to draw conclusions. They're great stats. Okay, but each person cannot be treated as a statistic, right? So when you put yourself in that statistical data, then you feel like, okay, you are going in that with the mindset of, I'm not going to live past 3 months or 6 months or whatever. So that's number one thing. I don't think anybody should tell people that. That's the bottom line to each person. Number two is really, really have a health advocate, somebody who can translate all of your options and all of those statistical data for you, because those data are important. But if treatment A versus treatment B, what are the pros and cons? What are the risks versus the benefits? What is the 5-year survival rate, with or without? All of those things are questions that a person should ask. And really going through every treatment step by step and understand all of the risks and benefits associated with it. Like your wife did, and say, well, the odds were, 80% versus 10%, say it's pretty big. It's pretty obvious. Sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes people are told you do this therapy, it might be 5% versus 2%. Well, do the math. Some people feel comfortable with not doing anything, and that's entirely up to a person. I think it's just there should be no reason for pressure or fear or anything that I have to do this. Most important thing is going in with confidence and the knowledge in all of the facts and the data in front of you to be able to make that decision comfortably and confidently. And so I would say you every person need to be your own health advocate. And one thing I always tell people, please don't go to Google University or nowadays ChatGPT. They're great information sources, but those, they don't know you. They don't know you as a person. They don't know everything about you. And it's not a good way to make medical decisions. And unfortunately, a lot of people go do that these days. Oh, ChatGPT told me to do this versus that. AI is a great tool for a lot of things, but not for serious medical decisions. So you need to talk to a person who can understand and you can trust, more importantly. And really speak up, ask questions. It is your right. It is your life you're making decisions about. So you don't need to be pressured into one way or the other, anything. You need to really make a decision with confidence. And that's the bottom line. I will tell you two sides of the story. Just a quick example. Recently, a person came to me with a cancer diagnosis, and a friend has a product. We don't name the product that supposedly heals everything. And this friend told this person, do not do a biopsy of your cancer because it will spread everywhere. So I want people to be very, very mindful of that. Nobody should tell anybody, do not or do this, right? And this person asked me, should I do a biopsy or not? I said, well, if you want to know more information about the type of cancer and the markers and the nature of the cancer, and, until we know that, we can't target therapy, whether it be chemotherapy, immunotherapy, or light therapy, or all. So these are the facts.
So let's address this question, because this is not the first time I've heard this, that let's just get rid of the cancer instead of opening it up to oxygen and air and other pathogens that will make it grow and worsen. Does that happen?
In some rare cases, yes. And it depends on the type of cancer. So a solid tumor, say, for example, a ductal carcinoma in situ, that's very much contained tumor. And based on the pathology and the stage of the cancer, really that basically tells us what are the risks of leaving it there, treating it versus actually removing it. So really in that case, it's so contained that it could be most likely very safely removed.
Yeah.
Right. And in some cases, it is possible that, doing a surgery, that something is being ruptured. And yes, there is a small chance of that. Now, how often does that happen? Not often, obviously. But when you think about it, if the cancer is so far in advance, like my dad's case, the stomach was destroyed. There was, that stomach wasn't functional. It was just the body of cancer cells sitting there. So it was better to remove it, right? So in some cases, it really is a case-by-case basis. And I think what a lot of misinformation is out there is like, you touch the cancer, it's going to grow. It's not always the case. And it really depends on type of cancer, how contained it is, how spread it is, where is it spread. And really, we need to learn about the nature of the cancer, how advanced it is, what are the markers and all of that. Now, with hematologic malignancies, for instance, it's blood, right? So it's hard to remove, right? But it could spread if, for some reason that was the case. But it's really, people have to understand that it is a very, very case by case. So that's what's so important, to have second opinions, to talk to people who understand and can walk through this with you and really understand the science, understand the stats, can read the things for you if you can't understand them, and really kind of translate it for you in a way that you are confident to. But nobody should really tell anyone, don't do this. And I was really appalled because I never, ever tell anybody, do this or don't do this. It's not my job.
And I love that. I love that approach. My wife has a rock outside that says advocate on it. And that was the biggest thing that she always said, that she was her own advocate and recommends it as well. So I love that you said that. And I want to come back to that as it relates to leadership and, being a sovereign person and being able to make our own decisions. But I also wanted to go back, because you were talking about healing markers and these testings, and you mentioned earlier blood work. You're an actual doctor. Your background is in the medical part of it, but yet you're taking a very holistic approach. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit more about the blood work, because again, the people who are logical and wanting to have their heart and head match, what does that look like? You have your own phlebotomist, or do people go and get their blood work done and then you kind of look at how does?
Great question, Mark. That's good. No, so let's take a cancer case, for example. Most people, when they come to me and they have a diagnosis, they either are in the process of getting those tests done, meaning there is a college test, there's cancer markers. Say, take a person with breast cancer. And they come in and they do the test, either it's family history or not, or what markers they have. It's hormone receptor positive or negative. There are generally a handful of genetic markers that each, say breast cancer person may have. So that is one big piece of information for me. So already I look at existing data because that's already there, right? And then I look at other things. Say all of the blood work, your complete blood count, your metabolic work, your comprehensive metabolic panel. What is your cholesterol doing? What is your blood pressure doing? All of those things create an environment in your body to either feed the cancer or help get rid of it, right? So if you have an environment in your body that has all of these other issues that your immune system and your healing system has to deal with, it distracts from your body's healing mechanisms to fight the cancer, right? Mm-hmm. Think about it as a battlefield with soldiers on the front line of a battlefield. Those are your immune systems. They're T cells, they're natural killer cells, right? They're really called natural killer cells and T cells that kill. So now if these soldiers are supposed to kill the cancer, help kill cancer, and now you have these other mess background here that they have to go clean up, right? What happens? Your immune system is compromised, right? So we want to look at all of that. So if a person has cancer, but there's also diabetes, there's metabolic disease, there is other things that are actually really compromise the body's immune system and healing ability. We want to also address those, right? And then there are other epigenetic factors and other things that sometimes don't show up directly in the traditional labs. For example, your gut health. Are you eating nutrients and not absorbing? Right? That's a big problem. People are eating stuff, not absorbing nutrients. Now, if you don't have the micronutrients, macronutrients for your body, your body's healing mechanisms, again, are compromised, right? So those are all little gaps that I fill in, right? So I can do this various ways. Sometimes I ask the person, can you ask your doctor to order these as part of your insurance coverage or whatever? And if they're willing to or can, they can do that. Sometimes medical doctors don't have, how should I say this, the ability, or, the insurance standards, or the knowledge or the willingness to order certain things. Mm-hmm. So then I can order them. I can order them. I work with various different labs that I could send them anywhere in the country and say, okay, you go to near you, there is this lab or that lab that can do the test for you, and then I will meet them. So that's generally how it works. And so we already start with a lot of data. Everything people have is very valuable. I use that already as baseline information, and that's that. And then I go beyond that and fill in the gaps with where we need to find other things. And then we kind of get the whole picture and then put the pieces of the puzzle together, get the whole puzzle made, And then we go to work based on that. And instead, or I will say, I use the same framework I used in cancer research and, clinical trials with drug therapy. But now I use those same markers with targeting them with compounds from foods and natural herbs to actually target those things. It doesn't mean that a person can't have, say, the conventional therapy. It could be in conjunction, it will complement. It wouldn't get in the way because, number one, food has no side effects. Number two,
healthy food has no side effects.
What was that?
Healthy food has no side effects.
Healthy food, correct. Healthy food has no side effects. So what it is that your body now has all the fuel and the tool and everything it needs to actually complement whatever therapy you choose to do, right? So even if you are doing, say, chemotherapy for cancer or any type of other therapy, immunotherapy, this will complement that. And it will work hand in hand with that. And it also will help the side effects of the therapy be less. I've had people with pretty much no side effects going through all of their treatment. And doctors are like, what are you doing? They're like, your blood cells aren't dropping. You have no sickness. All of this. Like, well, I'm doing this on the side. And that's basically how it works. So I hope that kind of long answer to your question.
Oh, no, absolutely. Yeah. Again, not everybody has a nutritional background to understand what things to do and what things they're not as supportive for the body. So having an advocate is a big part of it, which brings me back to that kind of the leadership part of it. It's nice that you can be an advocate when somebody comes to work with you, but I love your idea of each of us being our own advocate and taking on the responsibility to know. And when you're in that thing, that's the most important thing to know about.
Yeah. Take ownership of your health. And, I always tell people, I tell people, I put my clients in the driver's seat and I give them the map or GPS, if you will. But you really have to be willing to be your own driver, because I always jokingly say to people, I'm not here forever. Maybe I die tomorrow. I can't do it for you, but I will teach you everything you need to know and the why and the how and the mechanisms. And that's really, truly what is important, so that people can take this as their own, guidelines, or if you will, or the map, a roadmap, and know why they're doing what they're doing, rather than, oh, I just told you so, And if you didn't know, if I told you something now, okay, eat this because I say to you, if it's good for you, you would, but maybe in 3 years you forget, right? Or don't eat this because it's bad for you and you forget. But if you really understood the mechanisms that it relates to you and your biology and how and why, it's much easier to stick with it, to own it, to make it a lifelong decision rather than a short, quick fix. Mm-hmm. So I think that is the biggest part of leadership, because you are the most important person in your life. And to me, if you are doing anything, if you're a leader, if you're a parent, if you're whoever you are, whatever you do, number one thing is you have to be healthy to do whatever it is that you need to do. And health is your most valuable asset. We can have all the money in the world we want, but if we don't have our health, God forbid that diagnosis comes, doesn't matter how much money there is, it won't fix it, right? So I think taking that ownership and understanding that, especially in leadership roles, people forget or put their health on the back burner, right? Mm-hmm. I'm doing this, I'm doing my own business or this, that, just very, very admirable. You and I are both there, we know that. But to me, number one thing is, if I'm not here healthy to do what I'm doing, I can't help other people. So absolutely. I have to put that number one, and it's true for everyone. And it's true for parents, I always say, which are, in my mind, sort of leaders. It's an important role, although I'm not a parent, but I appreciate that, is if you love your kids, and if you're not there for them tomorrow, it doesn't matter how much you love them today. They would much prefer that you were there for them for a long, long, long time. Right. So no matter what you do, put your health first.
I love the taking ownership of it part. You mentioned before, not to trust ChatGPT as a doctor, also not to trust the people who call themselves medical professionals on social media. One of my favorite people to follow is a woman who just debunks all of these people who call themselves wellness experts when they don't know what riboflavin is.
It's so scary, Mark. I see people, I mean, there's like products they say, this fixes cancer and obesity and diabetes and inflammation and Parkinson's and everything. I mean, there is no way that one thing can fix everything. Be very skeptical of things that promise, to something that is too good to be true. And you are right, on social media, people who are experts in drink this and you will heal it all, or eat this and be very skeptical and really question everything. And either research properly or ask someone to research it for you. This is what I do. I literally love to research. But I understand, I look for the research and the peer reviews and the sources of those. People can show you research done on that. But when you dig deeper, you understand that, the research is done by the very same people who actually produced the product.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
Right? I made a product and I did my research on it, and I'm telling you that this is true because I'm telling you so, because I did the research. How could you trust that?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's very important to be skeptical.
And that goes back to, you've been talking a lot the last couple minutes about leadership. That leadership comes in many forms, and especially the best form is parenting. But if you're an employer, if you're an entrepreneur, you have clients that you are a leader for, and you owe them your good health.
Absolutely. And, as any leader, no matter what you are doing, what kind of entrepreneur you are, what kind of business you're running, even if it's not in health at all, in my mind, just think about when you admire someone and you look up to someone and you are looking for their advice and their expertise. How much more credible are they when they are the owner of their own most important asset, their body and their health? And they prioritize that because a healthy person is a much better functional person than someone who has a lot of complexities. Consider a business coach. Completely someone who's not in health, right? But if my business coach was somebody who was at risk of having a heart attack because they're so stressed or they're not sleeping or they don't, how much would I be able to trust that person?
And is that something you strive for? Do you want to have the kind of coach that's going to tell you to work so hard that you're going to be at risk of your own health?
Exactly. And, it's the credibility that comes with that leadership too, So I think that's a part that a lot of people don't think that it's important in leadership of any kind, even corporate leaders, or you see them. I've seen it in my world in academic research. There are people who are working on cancer and they have the worst diet and they are obese. Well, what kind of example are you putting out in the world if you are trying to cure a disease where you are like a walking example of it?
That actually, this is perfect because it leads up to my question I ask each of my guests. This is called leading with purpose. So what does leading with purpose mean to you, Laleh?
Oh, great question. Leading with purpose in my case means if I am not going to walk the walk and talk the talk, I have no business telling you to do that. So if I am telling you to do something that I'm not willing to do myself, I won't do it. And I will not compromise my integrity with something that I don't believe in. So if I don't believe in something, no matter how much a person pays me, right? You can pay me all you want, and if I don't believe in the core and my core in that, I won't take it. I have taken clients, I have turned clients down because what they wanted me to do or what they believed, it wasn't something I believed in. I wouldn't do it myself. So if I didn't do it myself, I can't with honesty and integrity claim that that is okay for them to do. So leading with purpose for me means practicing walking and talking the talk, walking the walk 100% of the time. And that I truly do that. And I do my best on every single day to do that.
I love it. And I see that. And that's why I wanted to have you here on the show as somebody who is leading with purpose. We're going to be putting all of your contact information below, but just for the audio, what's the best way for people to find you?
Best way to people to find me is go to my website, dynamicnaturaladvantage.com, and you can actually contact me through there. I'm very approachable and check my email every day, and I pretty much respond within 24 hours to everybody. So that is the best way. Of course, social media is there, but the best way is to really direct contact through the website.
And again, we'll put all the links below. One last question for anybody that's listening now. What's the last word or message that you might want to leave listeners with?
I always say there is no magic pill. If somebody's promising you a magic pill for anything, for your health, it doesn't exist. The magic is really in your hands. You need to take control of your own life and your own health. And there is no one single solution that anybody can promise you. If anybody's selling you a magic pill in the form of a pill or a food or anything, please be skeptical. There is no magic pill. But you are the magic, really. You can make it happen if you have the tools and the knowledge and the skills that you need to do that.
I love it. Thank you so much. Again, no magic pills. Be your own advocate and walk your talk.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Laleh. I appreciate you and the work that you're doing out in the world.
Thank you.
And again, put your comments below. We will make sure that one of us will reach out to you. Love to hear from our audience. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Leading with Purpose. We hope today's conversation has inspired you to lead with purpose and make a meaningful impact. If you're ready to discover where you stand on your leadership journey, I invite you to take the Soulful Leadership Assessment. It's a powerful tool to help you align with your leadership style and your true purpose.